Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you on a Saturday. It is about 10:59, just about 11 o'clock here on another rainy, crappy, overcasty day. The weather has been pretty rainy for most of the week since Christmas, really. Super warm, unusually warm. It's been like in the 40s every day, but it's been just wicked rainy. I guess it's supposed to snow this weekend. It would be cool. I've said before in a lot of other videos, I'm not a huge fan of the winter, but I do love the snow, which is kind of a weird, I don't know, paradox, I guess. I don't like cold weather. I can deal with the 20s and 30s, like that's okay. But when it gets in the teens or beyond, that usually really irks me. But I do like the snow. I do like, that atmosphere and, you know, uh, it's, the kind of the beauty of it. But anyway, New Year's is coming up. New Year's is coming up this weekend already, and we're going to be moving into 2024 already. So pretty wild, pretty crazy how things have changed, and it's always that case. I feel with when you think about things that have happened, in your world and outside of your world, over a year's time, there's hopefully lots of new changes, new things that are exciting. And then at the end of the day, it's also, kind of this same shit, different day. But, you know, this 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 year was great. A lot of, interesting things have happened, so I'm always grateful for being able to pursue new projects and to, always be challenged and to always try to more or less have that mindset of moving forward. So, but today's show is on a movie that I've actually been wanting to get to, and I finally watched. For some reason, it was I got this movie I think it was the last time I went to Bull Moose, and it's been a while. I'm going to try to go this weekend, chomping at the bit to buy some new movies. Got some got some money from Santa Claus for Bull Moose, so I'm pretty excited. I'm going to try to go. I might go tomorrow, and if I don't go tomorrow, might go Sunday, but we'll see. But pretty soon it will happen, and I'm kind of excited to buy some new movies. It's weird because I had said before that with the whole thing of physical media, I got the sense that a lot of things were kind of dwindling. And I went to the last two times I went to Waterville, to the Bull Moose location there. It was terrible. I did buy some movies. I found some cool movies, but the selection was kind of awful. And they have all kinds of movies there. Obviously, they have your more popular, standardized or standard horror films. If you want to get movies, like The Conjuring or films like that I love. But if you want to get the more big budget horror films, you can find them. Action movies, they still have a massive selection of new and old. But when I always go to those shops, I always try to seek out, the most like down and dirty exploitation movies that I can find. And I have bought so many great movies over the last few years there. And I noticed the last few months it's been pretty rough, at least there. I've been going up to Bangor also. I'm going to probably go to Bangor this next trip. And I have gotten some really good movies up there. But it's a little bit, and again, as a big fan and as a collector of movies, I've always said that my favorite films are the grindhouse, exploitation, anything in that world. That's my jam. And they've always had a wonderful selection as far as these like super low budget underground movies and the great Blu-rays, but it's been I've always had a sense when I've always loved these movies, but the last few years I've really been proactive in as far as buying them and buying up as many as I can, because I've always had this sense that it's kind of a weird little trend. It's kind of a weird little thing that's been happening, mostly positive, obviously. But I also got this sense that it's not going to last. It's almost like one of those situations like it's too good to be true. So that's always been a thing I've felt, and I have started to I've started to see that actually happen as far as my travels going to buy movies, and especially in the movies in the exploitation world. But the few times I've been up to Bangor, the Bull Moose up there, they've had a real great selection. So I'm hoping they still maintain and have a killer selection. The one in South Portland or Saco, Maine, is really great, but it's too far away. Really, I'm not down in that area very much. I could go down for a whole day and make a day of it, but that will probably happen at some point. And then the other one that's really, really good is the one in Brunswick. And Brunswick is quite a ways. That's like an hour and 20 minutes from here. Bangor is about a little less than an hour, so it's not too bad. But worth the trips, worth the travel time to buy some pretty awesome movies. But my last trip that I went to Bull Moose in, which was in Waterville, I bought this really cool movie that I had been eyeing for a very long time, and then I bought it, and then for whatever reason, I didn't watch it for weeks. And I have lots of movies that I've bought, and kind of inundated with the amount of movies I want to watch and movies that I want to get to, movies that I'm in the mood to watch, and then just a list of films that I've bought that I haven't actually watched since I bought on Blu-ray. Which that list is pretty small now. I've watched pretty much everything, and but in that kind of time, I didn't watch this movie, and I was like, why have I not watched this yet? And this movie is The New Kids. It's a killer, awesome, low budget 80s exploitation movie. It was directed by Sean Cunningham, who of course was the main guy, the main responsible person for the beloved Friday 13th franchise. This came out in 1985, and this was a later film that he did. Obviously, after the emergence of the Friday the 13th, he directed the first one, and that was incredibly huge. That launched his career, and he directed quite a few other movies since then, but nothing was as big as the first film that he did with the Friday 13th. But I had seen this movie. This came out in 1985. I got this really cool Blu-ray version. The only thing there are no special features on here, which is pretty lame. I was really surprised. The packaging is awesome. The transfer is amazing. And I had never seen this movie. And I love Sean Cunningham. Friday the 13th is my all-time favorite horror franchise. So I just had to watch it. And I had heard about this film forever. And I had never seen it. And then when I finally watched it the other night, and I was kind of blown away by how amazingly fun this movie is. Totally low budget, super cheesy, definitely like exploitation, grindhouse, and but it's great. And the thing I was so blown away by with this movie is the cast. It's wild. It has all these young actors that went on to become, or at the time they were very young, that went on to become huge stars. James Spader's in this movie, and he's like, I don't know, I think he's like 19 in the film. Shannon Presby, Lori Loughlin, who she was in the TV show Full House, I believe. Eric Stoltz, real famous actor, really great actor. He's like super young. They all play like college kids. And the other thing, the biggest surprise for me that I was super excited about was that I didn't know he was in it. He's not in it that long, but he's so awesome in it, like he is in everything. Tom Atkins, he's one of my favorite actors in the world of exploitation. He's done so many great movies from like Maniac Cop to The Fog. Jesus, so many great movies. Night of the Creeps, Halloween 3. I mean, just an amazing. And he just had such an amazing career in the world of exploitation. I love those movies to death. I've always loved his career, and I didn't know he was in this, and he's of course just amazing. This movie is super funny too. It's kind of like the heart of it. It's like a high school film, and it's kind of centered on, the this group of kids. Their parents unexpectedly die tragically, and then they are taken in by their uncle, and then they're moved out of the state, and they go into this high school, and they encounter this gang of kids led by James Spader, and they're basically like these punks. They're bullies, and the whole movie is about kind of the being in high school, being that age, but then also dealing with bullies, and then the situation. It kind of there are situations where both groups kind of lash out each other in acts of like revenge, but then it escalates to the point of where it gets really deadly and really murderous, and it kind of goes into um, the slasher territory, but very very cool. And things get completely out of hand and completely crazy. The ending is awesome. Um, the premise is great, and I love. It goes into an area without giving the film away. It goes into an area of where there's this big, huge kind of climactic ending, and it gets really violent, really dark, and you kind of don't see it coming because the movie itself is kind of light and pretty funny, pretty goofy, pretty silly. And then it gets a little bit more serious, and then it gets into this kind of deadly space. And it's great. It's really awesome. It's a really great ending. It was a trip to see James Spader in this film. I mean, he's so young, and Eric Stoltz. There was a really nice surprise because I had no idea that they were in it. The reason I bought this movie is because I saw that it was directed by Sean Cunningham, and he's great. And so I was really impressed, and it's a very different film. You know, um, Getting back to the Friday 13th franchise, I really love. Of course, that's my favorite franchise, but I think one of the best movies in that franchise is of course the first one. I have other ones in the franchise that are probably my favorite. The final chapter is probably my favorite, but there's so many great movies in that franchise, and I think it's it gets cheesy, it gets pretty terrible, but I think the thing that's so great about that franchise is that it's consistent. I did a big show, a series of videos where I covered every movie of that franchise, talked extensively about it. I own the entire box set on Blu-ray, and that's one of my most cherished possessions. I love that set. Really great because it's got a lot of cool special features on it too. But Sean Cunningham launched the whole franchise, and the first movie, Friday 13th, is really different than the rest of the films. I think when he directed that film and was involved with writing that film, he had this total exploitation mindset. He wanted to try to capitalize on the horror exploitation world that was happening in the late 70s and 80s. They wanted to, it was after Halloween, they wanted to exploit that audience and make as much money as they could to establish their career. At that time, for a lot of directors, for a lot of new directors, their way into getting, kind of in the industry or getting their name known was to dive into making horror exploitation movies, and so that was the big thing. The slasher genre was massive, so it was this huge thing. So a lot of people tried to, capitalize it. Hence the word exploitation. And so many great shitty movies came out of that time, and But this movie's really good. It's actually, it's again, it's super low budget. It came out in 1985. It's super uber low budget, super cheesy. There's times in this film where it's uh, totally ridiculous and wacky and strange, but it's awesome. It's super entertaining, and it's a great little like party movie. And it does get, like I said, the ending and where the whole kind of trajectory of these characters with these two groups of these high school kids gets more serious, and it gets really dark, and which I was surprised by, and really kind of blown away by, and I really really enjoyed it. And what I was saying about the first Friday the 13th movie, that movie is so different than the rest of them, and of course Sean Cunningham, he didn't have the intention of like making into a franchise. He just wanted to have a hit, and it was huge. It was a huge hit, and it made a shit ton of money, and it launched his career, put him into the limelight, and then he made a ton of money, and the franchise exploded, and kind of the rest is history. So, but that movie is so different in a lot of ways because to me, I mean, obviously it's a classic slasher movie, but it's um, it always plays out for me more like a Hitchcock kind of a film, very suspenseful, and you don't really see the killer until the end. There isn't the plot reveal to the end, which is really great, and that's one of the many characteristics I think taken from the Hitchcock style. And this film is radically different in tone and in the way it's shot. And it's a lot lighter, but again, it does get a lot darker. And it does have elements of the slasher genre. And it gets pretty murderous at the end, which was great. And it had a really great payoff. But it's very, very different. It's very. Watching this, I wouldn't have guessed that it was a Sean Cunningham film. I thought that was great. So, there's some of his other films I have not seen, and I really want to check them out because this is a really great movie, and I'm glad I bought it. I wish it had special features on it. It was super cheap. It was $6. Really great quality, great transfer on Blu-ray. There's nothing. There's not even audio commentary on this, but still worth having. I love the packaging. Very very cool movie. So I definitely recommend if you're in a mood for some silly campy 80s exploitation movies, The New Kids is pretty awesome. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.